Oh, hooray. We're back. RomaPress podcast, the annual Europa League playoff place uh, celebration episode. That's what we can call this one, Andy. I'm excited. Two extra matches. Yay. Okay. Our newest patrons, four more degenerates who what do you even call it? We're past illness at this point. But thank you nonetheless to Daniel A.G., Matt, Nick Martin, and Christopher Parsolt. Thank you both for your support. If you would like to join this group of sickos, patreon.com/RomaPress. You can get access to episodes early before everyone else, other news, and other Roma related merch, exclusive stuff. I had something on there about Beppe Rizzo and Davide Frattesi, Andy, and I knew this was going to be coming down the pike just hours before, and I got ahead of it by 2 hours before Beppe Rizzo comes out to Tutto Mercato Web and gives an interview and says, "Oh, the entire thing about Inter and transferring Frattesi to Roma, it was all my
It was
idea.
my
It was
own
never."
doing. It was my.
Yes,
It's
yes. Well,
great. I must say I love that. How many times do you get an agent to admit that? As twisted as
yes.
he is, that was a hell of a statement. You never get those agents who are like, "Oh no, it was my thing. The player didn't know anything about it. I did all the scheming." He basically said, "I tried to pull the strings. I tried to make it happen." I think that was a pretty good description of what we say, John, when we say the agents are the ones building the narrative. Whatever you see in it, that's the guy. That's the guy who's telling Di Marzio, who's telling La Repubblica. If there is the news of Frattesi wants Roma, that's because Beppe Rizzo is putting it out there.
Yes, and Beppe Rizzo told me, everybody, that he was going to be trying until the very end of the market. So something came down just moments after I published that thing to some of our patrons, wherein I said it's extremely unlikely, and it's more than likely that Inter are going to want to sell Frattesi. They're going to want to wait until the summer because if he has even a decent remainder of the season, and they're able to wait until June to sell him. He is on their books in June 2025 for just over 18 million euros. And like Roma, Inter are in a precarious financial situation. So every outgoing deal has one thing in mind, plusvalenza, and obviously wait until the summer, sell them for 45 to 50, much bigger plusvalenza than what they would get now. It only makes sense. But Roma, they did try. And by the way, unsurprisingly, that is the metaphorical scene of Beppe Rizzo falling on the sword doing that interview. Frattesi went to Roma. It's just Inter wouldn't budge, and the rest is history, as they say. But speaking of the history of the Roma, European juggernauts at this point, Andy, we find ourselves in a Europa League playoff, two more matches that nobody asked for, and also two more matches that this team does not need. Putting that aside, this was another good performance. This was a very solid performance. Eintracht, I believe they ended the match with an XG expected goal of under a 0.5. Roma close to 2. Defensively, they were very good. And the goals, both goals coming from the unsung heroes. I mean, Angelino, you can set your watch by this guy with how reliable he is. And then, of course, the insurance goal, the second goal. Say his name. Speaking of merchandise, if we at this point, King Eldor needs his own line of Roma
Lord
Press
Eldor,
apparel.
Lord Eldor,
It
Almighty,
is.
Almighty Eldor.
It's incredible. And by the way, you've seen in the last 48 hours him being 2 steps away from Venezia, and his agent now being the one to kind of put the brakes on this thing because he thinks there could be a very strong possibility of him wanting to remain at the behest of Claudio Ranieri. And by the way, Andy, why wouldn't you keep him at this point? what more do we need to see just in terms of ability to come in, impact the match? Let's just put that discussion aside. This thing of needing a backup
It's
striker
okay.
to
Yeah, it's. I wanted to. Yeah, I think that's very interesting because we've been reading only articles where the objectives for Shomurodov's replacements are like players who cost around 20, 30 million. And I think to myself, how the hell is Roma going to invest that much money in a single player at this moment in time, and then also bring in someone who is going to be willing to be coming off the bench for Artem Dovbyk? Like
yes.
that's that I want like logically, there's no single player out there whom you pay a big fee and then you tell him now you're gonna sit on the bench until the end of the season, occasionally playing the last 20, 30 minutes.
I mean, in terms of just impact, I mean, why would you even consider replacing him? That's the thing that is kind of curious to me, Andy, because this guy has already proven he is fine with coming off of the bench. He doesn't need to start. In fact, at this point, I think it would be to his detriment to start. How many goals is that for the season? Is that 4 or 5? I should have looked this up prior to hitting record once
I think
again.
I think it should be 5. I'm pretty sure it should be 4 or 5, something like that. 2 in Serie A, I believe.
Yes, and
Anyway,
yeah,
right?
well, the
because
yes, and
because he's always and also there was a period of time where he just didn't play him. I mean, even
correct.
recently he didn't play in Alkmaar. Last week he didn't play. Roma needed a spark in Holland, and Ranieri preferred others. And instead, we get 2 games in a row where he's on the verge of this move to Venezia, and all of a sudden he lights it up. Now, granted, those are not perfect performances. I'm not here saying that he's our Lord and Savior, but I just think the contrasting reports never made sense to me in the sense that Roma were always rumored to go after, okay, a big time player who could give Artem Dovbyk a bit of rest. Yeah, but any big time player, as soon as they find themselves in a position where they have to compete for minutes against someone like Dovbyk, for whom Roma paid almost 40 million euros, any
Right.
big time player will think to themselves, why would I join this project? What do I have to gain moving from a club to another club and to sit on the bench for what? So I don't know if Roma may lose something in giving Shomurodov away at this point and trying desperately to focus on someone else. Even Ranieri right now, he said, I asked Shomurodov to stay. So there it is. It's out there.
Yeah.
By no means I'm saying this is a perfect player. I'm just saying and we've seen it across the years. It's a tall task, John, to be a reliable backup to a striker. Because so
Yes.
many times you have these alpha males. Think of Edin Dzeko. When
Yes. The
Edin Dzeko would play
Dzeko.
every
Yes.
single, every player that came in to be his backup ended up not playing at all. So, except for Borja Mayoral, who stole his place. Remember, Borja Mayoral
Yes.
comes in, Borja Mayoral becomes the starting striker for Roma. That was one instance of that. But even with Tammy Abraham in his first year, it's always been difficult for Roma to have 2 options up front. 2 quality guys, because nobody will ever be willing to sit on the bench if he knows that Artem Dovbyk is out there, a player that you paid a lot of money for. You made him the face of this summer transfer market. What are you gonna pay 30 million for a guy who will be unhappy in 2 weeks' time because he's not playing?
You're spot on, and his agent was the one leaking this earlier today before the match. Kaihor Mumanov, who has probably one of the greatest cinematic villainous names of all time. Just fantastic stuff. Yeah, he's not going to go to Venezia. I mean, the only worst thing I would think as a player, other than coming off the bench for Roma, having to constantly just know for sure you're not going to start, is of course going to Venezia for just a variety of footballing and non-footballing reasons. But we'll save that
I
for
was
another
about to
time. By the
say,
way,
is it footballing or non-footballing, John? Because
well,
you've had
hey,
something for Venezia for a long time. So I was like, is he going to say the airport again, or is he going to say Eusebio again?
well, okay, here we go. Just very quickly. So in the Europa League, King Eldor, he has how many goals? I believe one. And then Serie A is only one. I think he has three on the season, one in each competition. But that doesn't sound right. SofaScore, I think, is not up to task at the current moment. But the long and the short of it, Eddie, is there have been so many articles, as you can attest to, linking Roma with this striker, linking Roma with that striker. And at this point, you're very few give a guarantee from a non-starting position than Shomurodov. And I just, let's be clear. I mean, if there is something that needs to be improved, if with the limited means Roma have in these final hours of the transfer market, I would prefer their focus go somewhere else. Yes, okay. I just double checked. So 3 goals, 1 assist on the season for Shomurodov. Maybe it feels like more, and I don't know. He seems to have that effect on people, but nonetheless, that is what it is. He's going to remain. You could do far worse, and there's much greater areas that Roma need to address. But on the flip side of this thing, it's another solid performance, solid result, and the lack of consistency has been the thing that has haunted Roma all season. Wasn't it just a few weeks ago we were talking about Roma winning 2 matches in a row? Or was it 2 matches in Serie A in a row? Whatever the case
Yeah,
may be.
absolutely. Yeah.
Whatever
It's
the
Serie
case.
A.
I mean, to
That's
follow up that performance on the road in Friuli with this very good display tonight. Defensively, I thought they were superb. In attack, they created a lot. There's wow, that's how football is played. If you score goals and then you don't concede any, wow, you win matches. It's like, why didn't Roma think of doing that
But
sooner?
tonight we also had the bonus of Mattias Sule playing for the first
Yes,
time more than 10 minutes under Claudio Ranieri, and it was a very good performance. So that was on that was on the bright side of things. And I think also with Ranieri in recent weeks we've seen an improvement of the impact of players coming off the bench.
yes,
Before that, remember there was that famous match, I don't remember against which team it was anymore, but where Ranieri didn't change anybody and everybody
yes.
stayed on the pitch. It was very it was almost like a statement, like a statement of, I want to trust my guys and I'm not
Mm,
trusting anyone else but my 11 guys on the pitch. And now he seems to slowly be, in the press conferences, he's always talking about Sule, but so far Sule had basically zero playing time under him. Tonight
yes.
was probably the first time where he had meaningful minutes, and he turned those meaningful minutes into something where the team actually benefited from his presence on the pitch.
Well, that's the thing that I think most people are going to take out of this tonight. He has been in such a precarious position because let's remember, if we just want to do the timeline in these, how many months has it been? 4 to 5 months of Sule at Roma. Let's go back all the way to ancient history of, August 2024. He's starting under De Rossi. And then we all know how that went after 4 matches. And he goes MIA, Andy, for 4 months, 5 months. Just nowhere to be seen, not being relied upon. Yet during this entire period, you have Ranieri. Andy, what was one of the first things he said when he comes to Roma? How Sule is the future. And you hear him say that, and you think,
And he
oh,
keeps
okay,
saying that. He's been
he does.
every week,
Yes.
even yesterday he said it.
He is saying all of these very, very complimentary things of Sule, and you hear him and you think, wow, okay, well, he definitely rates this guy. Then I wonder how often he's going to utilize him, and it has gone to how often will he utilize him to if he will utilize him. If in this match it went from if he will utilize him in this match to if he will utilize him this month. The guy has played so sparingly in a season that for him has to be incredibly frustrating because, again, last season you are cursed with your manager of Eusebio Di Francesco, and you carry a Frosinone side that had absolutely no business, even having a chance at remaining in Serie A, and you were just seconds away. And compliments of Roma, they ultimately go down to Serie B, and fine, heartbreaking, but you're the only focal point of that attack. The only thing worth anything within that team, frankly, other than maybe one or two other younger players. But you are relied upon so heavily with that side. And then you make your big move after weeks of negotiating between Juve and Roma. And you start, you play a lot in the first few matches, and then it's just whoosh, it disappears. Nothing. It is as if you have been kidnapped and stowed away somewhere as a hostage. And yet during this time, it's not as if everyone was saying how poorly you were playing or how, as far as a tactical point of view, you do not fit within the team. You have the manager praising. All three managers, in fact, have been quite complimentary of him throughout the year. And yet you hear all of these positive things and you go, okay, well, hold on. Hold on. Why he's not on the pitch? So why is that? You love him so much. Why isn't he out there? And I can understand the need to want to protect him, to want to not put too much pressure on him. I understand that. But there's no doubting that this season is, just from a mental, psychological standpoint, was going to be difficult making the move from Juve. But now you've had this upheaval of managers. Let's not forget. And he gave an interview where Sule was talking about how superb the Spanish of Daniele Terossi is, how he was able to do the slang of the Argentine slang, so to speak. And he was so excited to play under De Rossi. And just a few matches in, everything you were looking forward to in the summer, everything that sort of built you up to this moment of your big transfer to Roma is now gone. And I mean, the type of football that they bring in for the replacement of De Rossi, Juric, it speaks for itself. And now you have Ranieri, who comes in December, late November, and he is going out of his way to compliment you, almost to the point where, like, did he slip him some euros or something?
Absolutely. And yet, at the same time, he disappears off the map.
Yes.
Like, that's it's not the same as Juric and Hummels, where Juric completely dodges all questions about Hummels and doesn't
tries
play
to convince you Cristante
Ranieri
is better in central defender than him.
Exactly. No, Ranieri actually goes out of his way to reiterate how important Sule is, because remember, we entered this transfer market and Sule is being linked with Genoa, Real Betis. I mean, he's constantly being linked with Udinese now. And Ranieri, instead, he keeps on going. I got a bit frustrated because sometimes I really, when managers, say one thing but then do another thing, it just sort of plays on my nerves. But I can see where he's coming from. Even tonight we see that Ranieri in his simplicity is very demanding. You must know how to satisfy him. You must know how to show that you are responsible on the pitch. That's what he wants. He wants responsibility. That's why Mats Hummels has become a cornerstone of the team under him, because Mats Hummels plays exactly the type of football that Ranieri likes. Simple, and a type of football where each player takes accountability for their actions, where you don't just go out there and experiment. That is one of the reasons I think that Zalewski will be pushed out of the club. For me, that's a player who will never suit the kind of style that Ranieri wants or anyone else, because what Zalewski lacks is accountability for his actions on the pitch.
Yes.
So I want to, tonight, even in his post-match interview, Ranieri speaks at length about Hummels and Shomurodov. Hummels because he's a leader, Shomurodov because he sacrifices himself. I think those two attributes are sort of what Ranieri wants, not only right now but also in the future. That's why he says, I told Hummels to stay here, because he has to, because the team without him loses a leader. So I told Shomurodov to stay here, because if he goes, then who will sacrifice themselves the way he does, that. So Ranieri is trying to make each player irreplaceable, feel irreplaceable. Remember how he treated Pellegrini for weeks. Pellegrini didn't play, but then once he brought him out, he started to defend. When he brought him out in the derby, he defended him at every turn, and he kept reiterating the guy's qualities. He didn't put him down. He didn't say, "Oh, he's not ready." He said, "There is quality in him. There's quality. I'm just waiting for him to give me the signal." So what I want to say is that over recent weeks, we've seen players grow in confidence, but that confidence comes from a manager who knows that he was dealing with a sinking ship, and the only way out was to fill the team like a balloon with confidence. Now, there were days where it didn't pay off. There are performances that we can point to, just like last week against AZ Alkmaar, where you think, where is the confidence? Where is the belief? Does anyone care about this match? But what should work in the long run is this inclusion of each player into the team's game plan, and making each player feel like they have, yes, a lot of weight on their shoulders, a lot of responsibility. You cannot play under Claudio Ranieri if you cannot bear the responsibility.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting there about the sort of protecting or the defending his players. Ranieri does it in a much more subtle way than we were used to with Jose Mourinho. But that is one of his most underappreciated talents, I would say, is he goes out of his way to protect players, but he does so in a way that also motivates them. It is quite interesting from a psychological standpoint, which when it comes to Roma is generally the most important aspect, or I should say the most curious defect, or the thing that affects them most adversely from season to season. We now find ourselves in the, should I say, probably the unenviable, we'll call it, position of the Europa League playoff. And it's only right that it comes against the team, Andy, from where? Come on.
But Czech Republic, Victoria Pilsen. But yes. I wonder. But is that for sure? Is that I thought that
that's how the bracket looks now, though. Yeah.
Okay.
I have,
because I'm super confused, John. I'm super confused about this thing.
Listen. They changed this tournament in a manner in which nobody wanted or asked for.
Okay, so because I'm confused. I thought that we were supposed to face a number of different opponents. I
could end up being wrong, but we reserve the right to be wrong at this. I'm just going by what I have right now. I have UEFA's official website up, and they have the live bracket view, and they have, it says Roma or Pilsen. So exciting. I mean, some of the other teams that you get to choose from, it looks like one of those fake teams, like if you're playing NBA 2K and you have to generate the team name. Just some of these letters, they don't really make words. But nonetheless, are they the ones for the US Spalletti? Yeah, Pilsen. Were they one of them or no? I always forget.
Yes, it was Pilsen. Yes, it was Pilsen with Spalletti. But I'm reading that we may be facing Porto or Ferencváros.
Yep, say that. Yeah, Hungarian side. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So I don't know if it would be nice.
We supposed to break that down?
No, but I'm just saying it would be nice. It would be nice to face Victoria Pilsen, but I'm afraid that we may be in for a larger fish to fry if we do end up facing Porto. Just to sort of put it out there, because Porto is also with Spalletti, and Porto is not nice memories to me. So Porto is also Eusebio Di Francesco. So I'm just saying, Victoria Pilsen would be nice. It would be a romantic return to the roots of when Europa League saw the great performances of guys like Juan Iturbe. Who else? Oh, the Gerson, of course. And then there
Of
was that
course.
fullback. There was the fullback, the friend of Noura. Remember, Noura had a friend, and he was our fullback. Oh, God
I
damn
thought
it!
you were
He
talking
ended
about
up.
Florenzi. That's the one I always remember. That trick ball from
No,
hell.
no, okay, no, okay. No. I didn't mean him. I meant someone else. Well, forget it. See, this is the kind of show that we do where we forget everything and we make mistakes. But that's the imperfection comes with doing this at the kind of odd hours that we do this. Listen, Hummels is speaking about winning the Europa League. Now,
Oh
I
no,
don't know the
no,
format
no.
of this company. I get it twisted up. I don't know. We said it on Sunday or whatever the hell it was that we last played. We said it. We said this team says a lot of things, does a whole other bunch of things, and we can never get a read on them. I am done in believing what these guys say because, hey, anybody can say anything and then they go out of their way and they crap their pants the way they did against AZ Alkmaar, where it was just sort of, you don't even know why you lost that game. It's a puzzle, It's a puzzle. It's an enigma. Nobody knows what it means. It's provocative, right? As quoting the Step Brothers.
The Step
But
No, come on. No, not Step Brothers. Nope, come on.
yeah, it's Step Brothers. No, it's not
No, I
Step
thought it was
Brothers.
the ice skating one. Come on.
But
Or
isn't it
maybe
with Will
no.
Ferrell? I
Yes,
thought it was.
no.
Yeah, it's Will Ferrell and John C. Riley. It's Step Brothers.
I thought
I believe it is Step
no.
Brothers, John. I
Oh
believe
my
it's Step
gosh,
Brothers.
hold
He's
on.
in the garage and he's like, nobody knows what it means.
Oh, you're
But
right.
anyway,
No, you're right.
it
Is
is
it
Step
Blades
Brothers.
of Glory? That's the movie I always think of.
Okay,
No,
okay,
no, I
no,
think you're right.
I was
Forget
thinking about
I don't know what the hell I'm saying now. No, you're right.
what
Uh,
the yeah.
anyway,
So
anyway.
nobody
Yeah,
knows, if Mats Hummels says we have the quality to win the Europa League. I don't know because last week I didn't feel that way when we came out of that match in Alkmaar and they got one shot on goal and that they scored and
yes.
we didn't have any hunger, any drive in a match where we should have had because otherwise, exactly, we didn't want to play extra games. That was the whole point. It's the whole point every season. Remember last year we don't want to play those extra games against freaking
No.
Feyenoord, and yet we have to. Perhaps had we not gone down that hole, we would have maybe done something else in Serie A with De Rossi at the end of the season. But it's
Oh,
always like that. It's always so. I don't know who to believe in because tonight Roma did a wonderful job.
they
But
did.
perhaps that will change a week from now. Perhaps that will change against Napoli. Who knows? That's the thing. They're so unpredictable. But to focus on the good part of it, is that we are seeing, yes, a sort of incremental inclusion of other players. We're seeing Tommaso Baldanzi make appearances. We're seeing Mattias Sule now finally start to work his way into Ranieri's workings. Eldor Shomurodov gets his big moment, which was much needed because you need to know that, okay, Dovbyk is not giving you enough in a match. Okay, you can have this guy who's motivated, ready to go. That's key, at least to sort of know that the individuals are there and they're willing to give everything for you.
Absolutely. And to end it, you mentioned it already, Napoli at the weekend. One of those games where if you get what we've seen in the last two matches, you take your chances and you like at least your odds at getting something from this. Now, of course, with how Napoli have been this season, it would be mad to go out there and expect Roma to win. But listen, this is Roma. When you compare this Roma, even to the first early performances of Ranieri, I mean, this is clearly a team coming into its element in terms of knowing what the manager is asking of them, going out and doing their duty, and having a much better understanding of one another as a team. So, listen, how long ago did they lose to Napoli? Was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? however long ago it was.
No,
This isn't much.
it was quite a bit of time ago, John. Believe it or not, it was quite.
This is still a much better team than when they first faced off. I think it was in December or maybe late November, whatever it was. This Roma is different. They're much more improved. Now, the fact of the matter is, you don't know what Roma you are going to get. You just said, if you remove that match from the Netherlands 1 week ago, we probably have a much better feeling coming into this match against Napoli. But that match happened, as did the one against Como. So this team, all season, the moment they began to attain anything, even resembling continuity in their results, they come up with an absolute a stinker of a performance and result. So it would be unwise, absolutely unwise.
And also, if you look at what the kind of run that Napoli are on, I mean, you just look at their form. It's the kind of match where, once again, it's like because Napoli was the first match with Ranieri at the helm, John. So we're talking about late November. So that's quite a bit of time ago. Roma have changed a lot since then. What we appreciated about that match, even though we lost, is that we lost with dignity, right? It sort of felt like, oh my God, thank God Ranieri is here so that we can learn to lose with dignity again. No more 5-1 with Fiorentina, but plenty of 1-0s against the likes of Napoli. What I remember from that match is we gave Napoli problems. Now, that's not enough because, again, the result is 1-0. I want to believe that Napoli are coming off a similar good run of results. I want to believe that Roma will be able now to put up a better fight, because I think what was missing there was that Roma were prevented. They sort of were absorbing everything that Napoli were giving them. I don't want to see that. I want Roma to be a bit more aggressive. I want Roma to instill a bit of fear in Napoli's bones. That's what I want to see. I want to see Antonio Conte look worried. I want to have him on a phone call with his hair transplant surgeon, ready to go for another transplant because of how stressful this night is going to be for him. Okay, I want him to be on a flight to Istanbul after the match because he's lost so much hair on the sidelines, just because of how tough Roma have been on him. I don't know if that's too much to ask, given that we played really good today. Definitely a lot of energy went into this performance. But I think out of dignity, it would be nice to also show to Ranieri that we've come full circle. It's been the first match that you were here. Now we get to see if we've taken that extra step forward. I mean, to me, it is possible, again, because
I agree.
I believe when Hummel says we can win the Europa League, and I can believe that he is confident in the individual ability of players. We have good players. That's never been up to discussion. There are good elements in this team. They have very often failed to show up. That's different. In this case against Napoli, I doubt that the motivation is a factor that should be questioned. I think this game prepares itself, so to speak.
No, it absolutely doesn't. By the way, when you have Hummel saying things like that, I don't think he's lying or trying to, pull the wool over people's eyes. I actually think he believes that, and it's somewhat understandable because when they are playing as we expect, or at the level, I should say, that we expect, I mean, they are a very good team. Porgino is always on the table, as we saw in the first match against Napoli. Romelu Lukaku scored the only goal of the match. The interesting element now is, I don't know if anybody has been watching Napoli with a very close eye. Spinazzola has started two of the last 3 or 4 matches for them, I believe, and assuming he isn't suspended for this, I would expect him to start in this one. So now you have the double. So he's either going to score a goal or tear a ligament in his knee, which I obviously don't want him to do.
John, but tonight Rasmus Christensen did not score. Tonight was the perfect night for Big Rasmus. For Big Rasmus to show up following his wonderful season with us last year, and yet he didn't. So maybe maybe that's a good sign ahead of the match against Napoli. There is hope. There is hope of no Purghino this time, because we know that Romelu Lukaku. I'm done. I'm done watching him hurt us. It's enough. It's done. I don't want to see. He's been on an incredible run with Antonio
He
Conte,
has.
but I don't need to see that again. Okay, Spinazzola scoring
Yeah.
against us would be more painful than my nonno coming back from the dead and scoring
Yes.
against Roma. It cannot happen.
No, it cannot. But never say never with Roma. All right, we will leave it there. Back after the match against Napoli. Until then, everyone. Ciao.
Ciao.